All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. This is a fun topic for me. I've been really into studying, kind of researching all the different natural rhythms that are out there. And there's a lot of them that we could tap into. This kind of personal journey started for me a few years ago when I came across a teaching of, and this I'm not talking about this tonight, but this is how the rhythms journey started for me. Came across a teaching on how to line up your business work with your female cycle. And I was just like, what? Started learning a little bit about how to take advantage of certain times of the month when you have certain hormones going for you and when to not work against certain hormones. And that just fascinated me so much, just tapping into the way that we were created and getting the most out of it. And that kind of started me on this. I wonder what other biological rhythms are set into place without us really maybe being fully aware of them. That then got me into kind of looking into the moon cycle and on like a spiritual level of what that could look like, of what God's put into motion. And basically everything in creation that we see is a reflection of these rhythms, and they're there for us. And I know sometimes, especially those of us that are like in the South, where we don't necessarily get 4 seasons that are clear, or maybe those of you on like Southern California, we're not as aware. I think when I started going back and forth to Idaho and kind of tapping into the season there, I was like, whoa, there is supposed to be a rhythm that goes along with the things of nature that God's put into motion with creation, and how even the food that's available and what that does for us, and how if we just eat what's in season, how it would give us the vitamins and the things that we need in that season. So this is a comprehensive topic, and we're just going to chat for the next 20 minutes or so. So it's not going to be like a full in-depth training on all these things, but I want to give you a little bit to chew on tonight, something that you can maybe go research a little bit further, or maybe there's something that will just stick out to you that you could just implement in this season. I really liked this quote. So a lot of what I'm pulling from tonight, not everything, but a lot of it's coming from this book, which is called Staying Healthy with the Seasons. When I thought I was going to get my naturopathic doctor license a couple years ago, put that on hold, but this was one of the reading materials. So that says, it's time to assume total responsibility for how you feel on a day-to-day basis. Health begins with becoming aware of your energy and its balance, what you take in and what you put out. What's important is learning to listen to yourself from the inside, so you do not have to become ill to change your life. And the whole premise of this book is like, when we're sick, our body's crying out that it needs something. Sometimes it's rest. Sometimes it's nutrition. Sometimes it's just an imbalance in activity. And so why do we wait for sickness to do the right things, right? Let's stay on top of it and try to tap into that energy and really take assessment of how we feel on a day-to-day basis and say, I'm feeling this way. My body could use this, right? So this is what imbalance and imbalance looks like in autumn. If you're feeling really good and you're taking care of yourself and you're in balance in this season, that's going to look like, that's a misspell, consolidation, communication, new disciplines, productive work, study, clarity, care, quiet walks, more rest. Imbalance would look like indecision, confusion, overindulgence, maybe extra coffee, smoking, obscurity, and fatigue. Every season in this book, I have done a class on this. I've done spring rhythms and I've done winter. I've never done summer, which I feel like is just perfect for that season because you're kind of just all over the place, right? Summer in Idaho we have sunlight until, when I first got there in June, the sun set around 10:30 p.m. The vitamin D was abundant. The energy that I felt was like absolutely abundant. As it started getting darker and darker, you physically and emotionally feel the change in the weather, of course, and in the earth, but you feel it internally, kind of like an invitation to come inward. I'll talk about that in a minute, but here are some autumn rhythms. So the Hebrew month Sheshvan or Heshvan, this is a whole different class in and of itself. But if you're not even aware that there's a second calendar, and I'm talking to believers right now, there's a whole other calendar based off of the moon. And I believe, I did a post on this yesterday on Facebook and Instagram, but I believe that there's something to tap into there when you look at scripture of significant things that took place in this month. You can see kind of a pattern of spiritually what God does during these months. And in the month of Sheshvan, that was the time of Noah when the rain started and stopped. And spiritually speaking, it's kind of a time to go inward and to dig out, maybe search a little bit deeper for some deeper roots there of emotional, maybe trauma that you have that has been buried for a while. Some things might come up in this month that have felt maybe like you dealt with them and they were gone and they're coming back up. And that's very timely for right now. And what's so interesting about this, go read my post to read a little bit more about it. But in this book, which is not spiritual, it's not a Christian based book. In fact, it's a lot of Chinese medicine. It's very different belief system. I kind of like to just learn from a lot of sources. And what's the saying? Take the meat, chew out the bones, spit the bones out, chew the meat. But this book also talks about the same thing as the Hebrew month does, which is the time to go inward. And I was like, wow, that's confirmation. That's really cool. The diet focus for this month, cleansing, that's more in the middle of autumn. We'll talk about that. And eating lubricating things. And that has to do with keeping your intestines and your gut flowing because your activities may be a little bit slower in the autumn than it was in the summer. I'm going to talk about some food later, but just some ideas here. Food, juices in the beginning of autumn. Again, I was just talking to Jeremy yesterday. I said, I don't want to miss this window where I really feel like, really every season has an opportunity for cleansing and cleansing different organs. But if I'm really feeling drawn to do a Daniel fast, I don't know if any of y'all have ever done that before. Jeremy did it years ago when we were trying to get pregnant. A Daniel fast is like straight out of the book of Daniel in the Bible, where he eats like basically fruits and veggies. I want to say it's 10 days. Jeremy did it for fertility purposes. And what's so interesting about this, he's never done it since. He didn't love it. It was hard for him. He did a flag football tournament during that window. And I just assumed he would feel really weak and fatigued just eating fruits and veggies for 10 days. And when he came back from that tournament, he's like, that was the fastest I've ever been. And I never got tired. And what's so funny, we were talking about this yesterday. I said, you had that experience. Why have you not done this again? Because Daniel in the Bible says that he had energy and that his skin was glowing. And he tells the benefits of why he did it. So recently I keep coming back to the Daniel fast. Like, I want to do it. So that would be something to consider. Now, again, this is supposed to be early autumn. So those of you that are like in the thick of already cold, I know my Idaho friends are already in like winter. You might have passed this window because at some point you start switching gears and you start eating heartier foods, warming foods. But this book in particular recommends juice like grape and citrus. But again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Other foods, broths, fruit, root veggies, eggs, squash, pumpkin, garlic, things of the season you think of, right? I feel like if I were to ask like your average person about what comes to mind in autumn, like the first thing you say is pumpkin spice, but there's a reason for that. And there's a reason it's growing abundantly. And it's actually really good for you to eat that in this season, and pumpkin seeds too. All right, the organs of focus in autumn are lungs and the large intestine. I'm going to give you guys some practical ways to support both of those things. I read a lot in this book about how those actually work together. When you are suffering with a cold, oftentimes you get gut like constipation or too loose of bowels. And then on the flip side, if you are having issues with your bowels, if you don't get that cleared up, it can actually lead to respiratory stuff. So those things actually go hand in hand. The lungs, you obviously want to support more and more as you get deeper into winter, right? Herbs, we're going to talk about some root herbs tonight. I'm going to give you some specific oils to support both of the respiratory and digestive systems, and same for the supplements, specifically for GI support. Okay, so here's just a little bit about this season of turning within. So autumn marks the beginning of that cycle where September 22nd, that's the equinox, where the night starts becoming longer, right? Darkness is longer until that winter solstice, which is December 21st. And that's where that's your darkest day of the year. And then it starts getting lighter and lighter. So literally what's happening in the earth, its energy is something we can tap into. And this is to direct our energy now inward as well. So toward our work, toward our families, toward our projects at home. This is kind of an invitation to go inward. And I did already talk about the month of Sheshvan, but that's Genesis 7 and 8 if you want to read about that. So yeah, this is actually part of my post that I wrote. I said, this is a season of seeing deep roots that need healing, as well as deep truths we haven't grasped yet. It's a great month to seek the Lord on inner healing work, going after those roots, those lies, those limiting beliefs, those fears you might not be aware of that you're operating in. So it's a good time for this. So some of the activities for autumn, and these might be things you already do, or maybe not. Maybe there's something here for you, but contemplation, I like to say, like, just sit and be still, think, meditate, whatever that looks like for you, pray. Wow, lots of typos here. Writing, journaling, reading, nurturing your family, quiet breathing. Can you imagine if we just like sat still and breathed deep, slow breaths, what the oxygen would do for all of our organs and our bloodstream? Would be so amazing. Stretching, running, hiking, bathing, dry brushing. If you've never done this practice of after you take a hot bath or a hot shower of then finishing with cold, go like Google the health benefits of that. They're numerous, but especially getting into the colder months, this is actually really, really good for your circulation and your blood flow. Staying loose and relaxed is really important. I think for me, I'm really going to focus on those afternoon walks and stretching. For some reason, stretching is just like hit the back burner, and I'm feeling not very loose these days. And then of course, strength, weights and isometric exercises to build muscle. It's very normal. It's very normal and natural to gain weight in autumn and winter. The foods we're eating are heartier. Our activity level is lower. So we can still do some things to help gain muscle during this time and to build strength during this time. Of course, I can't talk about health without talking about the importance of sleep, because sleep affects every part of our life, right? Quality of sleep. Y'all, I tell people all the time, this is the most tired I've ever been in my whole life, which doesn't make sense considering I'm not pregnant and I don't have a newborn, but the times I'm waking up right now nursing my 3-year-old and 1-year-old, it's insane. And so I have started really being like, okay, I've got to go to bed earlier. With the sun would be ideal with the light outside, but that'd be really early for here. But that would be absolutely ideal. And obviously your sleep is going to really affect your immunity and your mood and your cognitive function, all those things. Start to develop a relaxing evening routine if you don't have one already. So a couple suggestions: lower blue light exposure. Monday nights are my only nights where I'm like on my computer late at night. Other than that, I really try to put phone away, computer away, and not have blue light exposure like within an hour of before bed. If I need to or have to or have work, whatever, I should be wearing them right now, actually. Blue light blocking glasses. You can also change the setting on your phone to eliminate the blue light. Mine does it automatically. I have it set for like sunset. An evening tea, a wind down tea. I'll give you some herb ideas at the end here, but just chamomile tea is great. An oil bath with Epsom salts. Reading and journaling is a great way to kind of wind down your mind. And then turn your Wi-Fi off. That'd be so impactful for your sleep if you don't already do that. We have like one of those like Christmas light timers, and our Wi-Fi just automatically goes off between a certain window. All right, so going into food, I'm not going to go deep into the nutrition, but this is kind of just a good overall like rule of thumb for balance in food. So if you separated foods into these 4 categories: builders, cleansers, congestors, and lubricators, I like to think of it like this. I can't give you guys like a good meal plan because every single person here is in a different life stage, has a different body type, has different activity levels. But just keep in mind that generally speaking, you want to have, what does it say here? Mostly cleansing foods. Okay, so those are your fruits and your vegetables. Adequate builders, animal proteins, beans, for example. You want to have minimal congestors, which are sweets and breads and cheeses. Those obviously are going to block you up. And you want some lubricators, nuts, seeds, and their oils. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So even if you're not growing your own food, here is what is abundant right now, naturally in this season. And these are things that we should be grabbing for: citrus fruits, grapes, apples. Grapes actually are getting out of season, but grape juice would be really good. Apples, pears, depending on where you live, these might already be gone and out. Tomatoes, walnuts, sunflower seeds, brown rice, corn, wheat, squash, and pumpkin. So here's what this book recommends, and this is what I'm going to do that Daniel fast. But first thing, if you haven't done a cleanse in a while, it's important to do a cleanse, and it can be gentle, doesn't have to be anything crazy, but cleanses potentially eliminate illnesses that you have stored away. If you have viruses or weird things, bacteria, it can flush it out. It also can just improve the function of your organs. So if you're improving the way that your liver works, then you're going to detox more. If you're improving the way your gut works, all of these things in turn affect your immunity. So a week or so of a juice cleanse. If you've never heard of Master Cleanse, you might want to look into that. It's a good time of year to do that. I know spring also is a good time to do that. Apple, pear juice, orange juice, any fruit juices, that's good for the morning. For afternoon or evening, vegetable juices like carrots, beets, celery, zucchini, or parsley. Grapes are a good cleanser for harvest season. They harmonize the body and they act as a tonic for both the lungs and the large intestines, which is why it's recommended for harvest season. Garlic is a great thing to incorporate in your diet. There's so many ways that you can consume that. Like tonight, we had a really hearty, healthy soup with potatoes and carrots and chicken and kale and bone broth. And at the very end, I just added a bunch of fresh garlic. Colon hydrotherapy is also recommended in this season. That's something you could look into. I'm not recommending these for everybody, by the way. These are just ideas. Like, you need to go do your own research if this is a good fit for you. Sea salt gargles and steam breathing treatments. So this looks like obviously gargling with sea salt, or just boiling water, pouring it into a bowl with some salt in it. You can also add some different essential oils in, and you cover your head with like a towel and breathe in while the steam's coming up. That's a really great way to get rid of excess mucus. Excess mucus in this time of year does not serve you. So that's a really good practice. These are things to do, guys, not just if or when you're sick. These are just things that you can do to promote health in this season. I read this last night that a tablespoon of cold pressed, so this is not heated up, but the way it's made is cold pressed, but you're also having it at room temperature. A tablespoon of cold pressed extra virgin olive oil twice a day to keep things moving and flowing through your intestines. I was like, let me give this a try. Last night I had a tablespoon before bed. I was like, oh, that was so gross. But then after like 5 minutes, I was like, hey, it wasn't actually too bad. I could totally get used to that. In the morning, consider, if you don't do this, a ginger tonic. I'll give you an idea, I think, on the next slide for that, but that's a great way to start your morning, with a little bit of hot water, some fresh grated ginger, some raw honey, some lemon juice. Great way to get things moving and flowing before you have coffee, food, anything. Even if you could do it within 10 to 30 minutes of breakfast, that would be ideal. And you want it to be warm water. And then a foot soak or a foot detox is another thing you can be doing. Here's a couple good ideas for some autumn meals. So baked squash or baked pumpkin stuffed with brown wild rice, sliced almonds and mushrooms. I won't read through this for sake of time, but go ahead and take a picture of it if you want some of these ideas. These are just some good autumn meals with things that are in season. Of course, adding greens to everything. I gave you some sea veggie options there. Sea veggies are really good for you. And then some seasonings. I have been snacking on pumpkin seeds every single day ever since we baked our pumpkins, got out the seeds, obviously. I made just a big batch of pumpkin puree to add to smoothies and to add just for extra pumpkin benefits, add to cookies even. But the pumpkin seeds are anti-parasitic and they're absolutely delicious. Once a week, we do a baked chicken, like a whole chicken, with a bunch of lemon. And we also do a whole chicken soup. And what we do with that, after we cook the soup, we take the bones, and like tonight, we'll make a batch of bone broth. So we have fresh bone broth all the time running every single week. And sorry if I'm missing any questions. Dinner soup recipe. I know I should give it to you. Okay, I'll have to post that later. Some autumn herbs. Here's just a few examples. These are specifically autumn herbs because I'm talking about supporting the lungs, right? And the digestive system. So as autumn moves along, the energy in nature's plants start going towards the roots. The leaves fall and the life force goes within. Those of us who are oilers know what this means. All of the life force of the tree is going to the other parts of the tree. So this is really important. Now we're turning to root herbs because that's where all the life force is in this time of year, right? Okay, so if you've never used herbs before, the best way to do this to extract all the goodness out of them, they need to be simmered for about 20 to 30 minutes before drinking them. And then you can, if you're using leaf herbs, you can steep those in after. Roots just need a little bit more time. So burdock root, this is a tonic and a diuretic, and it's been used in chronic skin disorders like eczema and acne, as well as for boils and lung ailments. Comfrey root is incredibly healing. My dad actually grows this. It grows like a weed. It's really easy to grow. But this, you can use both the root and the leaf. It's one of the most healing plants. It's high in protein, vitamins, minerals. Really, really good for so many things. You can use it as a poultice to stop bleeding. You can use it for sprains and injuries. Coltsfoot leaf. This is also a lung tonic. And I just put that it's a slow builder. So you only want to do a teaspoon per cup of that root. And you want to do, or sorry, it's not a root, it's a leaf. And you want to do 2 times a day over a 1 to 3 month period. That's for lungs. I recommend that if you have like a systemic cough that you seem to not be able to get rid of. That could also have an emotional root, but that's another topic for another day. And then other lung herbs and expectorants are licorice, wild cherry bark, slippery elm, mullein, herba santa, horehound, and Irish moss, which is a seaweed. If you're not like familiar with herbs, you can find these as teas ready to go. Just always get organic because you never want something that has, laced with like toxic sprays or anything like that. Okay, here's some tea options for you for the fall. So ginger, obviously I talked about that already. That one's great for increasing like your body heat, great for clearing the lungs. You can take the root just fresh from the store, slice it and simmer it for 15 to 20 minutes and mix it with other herbs. I don't even simmer it for that long, honestly. I'll boil water in the morning and put a little bit of ginger root and just let it sit there for like 5 minutes. And then I'll add in some raw honey and some lemon juice and maybe a drop of thieves or just different things. You can also take a cloth or a towel soaked in warm ginger root tea and apply it to congested or cold areas. This is really good for circulation and breathing. The other thing you can add to your morning shot is a little bit of apple cider vinegar and a little bit of cayenne. If you want to go big, make that daily shot. So I put that right there. ACV, raw honey, lemon juice, cayenne, and ginger. This is a good time of year to use laxatives, again, because you're slowing down your movement typically. It's okay to support that with natural things. Like I'm not talking about things that your body's going to become dependent on necessarily. But here's some examples for you: Oregon grapefruit, licorice root, Cascara sagrada. Dr. Christopher has a lot of different, that's literally the brand's name. He's a herbalist. He has a lot of different things. I cannot remember the name of it, but one of his things for birth prep might have been called gentle birth, actually. Anyway, if you look online, he has something called the lower bowel tonic. I would use this in the autumn. This would be something that I would use to keep that flow going to support my immune system, making sure nothing gets clogged or backed up. And then Young Living makes a really good spiced turmeric tea, and they also have a turmeric chai powder that I think would be super fitting for this time of year. So as far as oils and supplements, I'm focusing on those 2 areas, the GI tract and the lungs. RC and Raven would be wonderful to use regularly, diffuse, making compresses with, adding to a steam shower, putting them on the bottom of the feet. Digize, ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg. If you've never heard of the Golden Touch Kit, go look at that. It basically has all of these in there for $100. So instead of buying all these individually, just get the Golden Touch Kit. I believe is made for this time of year. Like it's everything I would want for fall. A couple other supplements that I would recommend right now: the prebiotic fiber, again, for all the same reasons I'm talking about the different herbs and the different foods and things, is to keep everything flowing. So that good source of fiber. Ningxia greens for the 50 fermented veggies and fruit and mushrooms that are in there. And then those other things that I mentioned, Chai Wellness Set, the spiced turmeric tea, Allerzyme. Allerzyme is an enzyme. I love this one, you guys. This is designed for your body's like natural response to allergens. So that could be food, that could be animals, that could be a change in weather. I think this is just a really great way to support our digestive system, and it's kind of a catch-all for everything. I also really appreciate that the size of these capsules are itty bitty. So if you want to open it and pour that powder, I'm like over taking capsules right now. I've just like reached my max on it, but they're tiny. But you could potentially pour that into food. Your kids would probably not even taste it. It's a great one, but technically you're supposed to take Allerzyme with a meal, in every meal. So yeah, organic throat coat tea is one of my favorites, Anna. And it has a lot of those fall herbs in it. Good to know. I love throat coat. Yeah, it has slippery elm. All right, y'all. I did so good staying on time. I'm so surprised. If you want to link to any of those oils or supplements, I set it up to where you could just text the word autumn to that number right there, 985-218-8868. If you have never ordered from Young Living, you want to get with the person who invited you to this call so that they can help you learn how to do that and place your order. If I'm your person, obviously reach out to me. But I hope that you guys got something out of this, and really just pray that it's a step towards a healthier fall for you as you kind of take advantage of what God's given us in this season and use that for your benefit. So thank y'all for coming. I'll definitely be doing a winter rhythm one, so stay tuned for that. And before I sign off, does anyone have a question for me? Yay, thanks Haley for coming. All right, y'all. Have a great night. See you in a couple weeks. Bye.